All right. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and open up your Subjuntivo note that we've been adding to. It's everybody's favorite note, the Subjuntivo note in Notability. And I'll go ahead and switch this screen over so that you have a view of what my Subjuntivo note looks like. Just quickly to review, thus far in Chapter 4, we've covered a few different grammatical structures. So far, we've covered cláusulas adverbiales, and these guys always beg the subjunctive. This is Dad's PC. It's the negotiating terms. And so, whenever you have a cláusula or a cláusula adverbial, or you have a Dad's PC, you're always going to use the subjunctive. If it's imperfect, subjunctive. If it's preterite, subjunctive. If it's conditional, future, present, subjunctive. And Timmy, before you ask, you can't say would in Spanish. It's just built into the conditional. Also, another thing that we've covered so far is the conjunciones de tiempo, and this is where it gets a little bit more tricky because that's when it's in the future tense. The main clause is in the future tense, then it begs the subjunctive in the dependent clause. However, if it's in the present, then it's going to be indicative because it's usually a habitual or a recurring action. And if it's in the past, we know that the thing happened, so it's going to beg the indicative also. Our one exception, as always, is antes de que. So whenever anything happens before another thing, whether it's in the present, past, or the future, you always use the subjunctive after the conjunción de tiempo antes de que. After that, we learned about aunque and how there are two ways of expressing although, both in English and in Spanish. If you use aunque plus the subjunctive, it means even if. If you use aunque plus the indicative, it means even though. Because if there's a condition that we're not certain is a reality, then you would say even if. So, like, even if I'm not hungry, I will eat. You don't know if you're hungry or not because it's even if, and so that's why it begs the subjunctive. Versus even though I'm not hungry, um, you know that you are not hungry, but you're still going to eat. So that's why one of them uses the subjunctive and the other uses the indicative. So our last thing that we're going to have to add on to our subjunctive note is going to be, I'm going to get rid of this because that was just notes in class, is going to be ojalá, quizás, and tal vez. So if you haven't added this yet, go ahead and check out page 186. Oh my goodness, that is a huge, that's way too big to write. There we go. So we got page 186, and this is ojalá. Actually, you know what? Let's structure this a little bit differently, kind of like we do the rest of them. We have three terms. Ojalá, tal vez, and quizás. Now, tal vez and quizás both mean the same thing. What is that same thing that they mean? I feel like I'm on Blue's Clues because I'm asking you to respond, but you aren't responding. Unless you are responding at home. So thanks. These both can mean perhaps or maybe. And both of these things beg the subjunctive, whether it's past or present, because maybe this thing happened in the past, maybe this thing will happen in the future, maybe this thing is currently happening right now. No matter what, these are going to beg the subjunctive. Ojalá roughly translates to I wish. And for those of you who were in class that day when we talked about this, this is actually a Spanish word that borrows from the Moorish influence, the Arabic, and it doesn't really translate, like it translates, but it doesn't really conjugate. So you can't say I wish, you wish, they wish, he wishes. You can't say tu ojalá. It's only I wish. If you there would be other ways you would use desear or something else if you wanted to express someone else wishing. So ojalá kind of translates to I wish or I hope or this thing that you desire to happen. And no matter what, that also always begs the subjunctive. So if you're wishing for something in the past, I wish I had friends. Um, I wish I had friends. The had would beg the past subjunctive. Whereas if you wanted to write the same exact sentence, and you're like, man, in the current scenario, I wish I. Now it sounds kind of weird in English because we wouldn't say I wish I have friends, but like you could say I wish to have friends, right? Like I wish that right now I have friends versus I wish that in some imaginary world or in the past I had friends. Um, this one, had friends, is going to beg the past subjunctive, and have friends is going to beg the present subjunctive. So let's translate each one of these using ojalá. So ojalá que. Now with tener in the past subjunctive, remember we start with our three P. So third person predicate plural of tener is tuviera or tuvieron. And we drop that on like it's hot, and we add our subjunctive ending, which is tuviera. Ojalá que tuviera amigos. Um, if we're talking about I wish to have friends, we would say ojalá. Okay, and then we're going to use present subjunctive. So tener in the yo form, we start with tengo, and then we drop that o like it's hot, and it becomes tenga. Ojalá que tenga amigos. So as you work through your assignments, we could say if it wasn't ojalá que, maybe it's tal vez tuviera amigos. Maybe it's quizás tuviera amigos. Maybe it's tal vez tenga amigos. The one thing you're going to want to notice is that ojalá oftentimes has a K added to it. Not always, but oftentimes has a K added to it. And tal vez and quizás are just standalone. It's not tal vez que, it's just tal vez. It's not quizás que, it's just quizás. If you need any additional help on these, you'll notice that in your books on page 186, there are some brief explanations here of how all of this works. So make sure that you take advantage of your book's resources, but also if you forgot your book at school, this is a good time to remember that you can come get your book. One little side note that we got to add, because there's always an exception, is that tal vez can also use the future. Now, if it's talking about something that perhaps is the case, however, it does not have to use the future. So, when in doubt, use the subjunctive with any of these three terms. Because even though tal vez can use the future, it does not have to. All right, hopefully this review is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.